Good morning. I'm going to go back to calling these little podcasts Coffee in the Morning with Her because since I've been on YouTube, I've been looking at various videos and all the rest, and I don't really want to do that. All I want to do is have a chat while I have my coffee in the morning, to be honest with you, and that's about the extent of it. I do. I like to. I'm. I'm glad I'm off Facebook because I even though I was sort of forced off it by their community guidelines or whatever, and their continuous tightening of the thumb screws to try and control me. So I'm certain not only that not for that reason am I glad I'm off it, but I'm glad I'm off it because I have to say I'm getting to choose my content a lot more now on YouTube, and it's a lot more fulfilling content. Like I'm actually like I've decided to, before I used to watch YouTube and I used to never engage, I used to never engage. I used to just watch the videos, even philosophy videos and psychology videos, and I used to just come away then and think about it and think about it and think about it. But I never engaged before. I never treated it as that sort of a platform. I just treated it as an educational platform. But now I'm engaging in it with on a similar manner like Facebook. Like, I'm engaging with it. I'm not just like a buyer sitting in a van. I'm leaving comments, like I'm leaving my opinions and perspectives on the videos, and therefore it's more enjoyable in Facebook because it's more quality content, and it's a better interaction for me rather than just. I found Facebook be very much. Targeting me emotionally, targeting, trying to evoke feelings of envy, trying to evoke feelings of fear, trying to evoke all these feelings because this is marketing, this is marketing, and marketing. I've done a little marketing in my day. It is emotional manipulation. This is what the best of marketing is emotional manipulation. Like this, they'll tell you openly in marketing if you want to sell something tied to an emotion. So really, like on Facebook, what you do is if you can give them a roller coaster of engagement, but at a low level. It's at a low level because there's not really any interest in you progressing. And I'll talk about this maybe in a bit. The Christians did the very same as this. In order to maintain power, they used to burn the heretics at the stake, and they used to burn at the stake anybody who could translate the Bible or anybody who was offered an opinion or a perspective different to their own. They used Jordan Peterson's, a new word I got from Jordan Peterson, to degenerate them. Degenerate them. Degenerate them. I'll have to look at that again. I have to say Peterson's very good for one thing, and that's learning English. His English is good. I give him that. I'm not so sure about his psychology, but his English is good. But I'm going to comment on his psychology, and I'm going to engage with him because it's in some of his perspectives are interesting. Like his whole story with Cain and Abel was way off. Yeah, I had another thing in mind to talk about today, but I'm going to talk about this Cain and Abel story. I don't know if you know the story of Cain and Abel. It's a Bible story about two identical twins. But they were cast in two contrasting roles. One was poor as shit, and the other was really rich, well off, surrounded by women, loads of sheep, loads of a really wealthy lifestyle for the time, and he'd all what some might deem to be the pleasures of life, but they're not really they come with their own problems, and speak from experience, but let's not go there, But anyway, Cain was poor as shit and Abel had loads of everything. So there was Cain making whatever sacrifices he could. They were both making these sacrifices to God. But meanwhile, anyway, Cain got pain in his bollocks, and he decided to go on. According to Peterson now, Cain went to God and said, why have you given him all this, and why you're turning your nose up to my sacrifices? Why am I getting nothing? It's basically a case of why did you rain on my neighbour's field and not on mine? Now, this attitude is going to cause anybody a hell of a lot of frustration. Why did you rain on my neighbour's field and not on mine? And I'm lucky in a way. I never had this trait. Like, I was never a jealous man, I'm very thankful to my soul for this, because this is my nature, you know. So I'm very thankful that it's not in my nature to be a jealous man. But if it was now, I had other traits that I had to work on. Now, at one time I was an angry man, but these are things that you have to work on, you know what I mean? And that's should you choose to work on them, of course. I'm not telling anybody that I have to do anything. That's, I'll talk about that again. I'm just talking, as to say. But I'll talk about Cain and Abel. And according to Peterson, God said to Cain that your sacrifices aren't good enough. Now, that's bollocks. And I'm going to tell you straight up that's bollocks, because I know that's bollocks. And I won't say I think it's bollocks. I'll say I know it's bollocks. Now, and that, as someone said to Peterson one time, you know, are you sure about that? He said, bet my life on it. And he's so assertive in his confidence that it's, you know, you don't doubt him. But I tell you now, God didn't say that. And but this is the Christian spin, and this is how the Christians create a slave morality. And this is my issue with Peterson. He expounds Christian values, but basically what Peterson is saying here is, first of all, that there has to be sacrifice. And then if you're not getting where you want, because I'm going to tell you straight up now, and something that Peterson says, Peterson encourages everybody to take a certain road. Basically, put your head down and your arse up and work as hard as ever you can, and and basically serve everybody until such point as you can assert yourself in the dominance hierarchy. But this is the goal, to assert yourself in the dominance hierarchy. Now, this is what I deem to be the first mistake. I'm not saying it's a mistake. Everybody plays their own role. But this is what I deem to be the first mistake. Trying to assert yourself in the dominance hierarchy. The only one, I'll tell you the truth. Some people come along and they say that the only one you should be trying to dominate is yourself. Dominate yourself, control yourself. But there's no need to dominate anybody. And this is what living in accordance with your own nature means, and living in accordance with nature means. I don't know who it was, I forget who it was, that said the Greeks wanted mastery over nature. Now, that's not the philosophy I know. And I tell you now, not only do I study the philosophy, I practice the philosophy. And it's about living in accordance with nature. And that starts living in accordance with your own nature. But it's a harmony of the mind, and it's not anybody trying to fucking dominate anybody. I tell you that. Including mastery over nature. It's not mastery over nature. It's in harmony with nature. But anyway, I don't have much time on this, so I better break into this. So that's the first thing I'm going to say. That there's no mastery over anybody. There's no trying to dominate anybody. That's the first thing. Well, that'd be me and the transcendence hierarchy anyway, as opposed to trying to assert myself in any dominance hierarchy. Now, the next thing then is this is what creates the slave morality. If you don't find that you're getting where you want to be, where you think you should be, work harder. Put your fucking head down and work harder. If you're not getting where you want to be, you're not working hard enough. How much can you do? Can you do 12 hours? Can you do more? Can you do 14 hours? Can you do 15 hours? Can you do 16 hours? And this is Peterson's I won't call it, that is his philosophy. It is his philosophy. This is Peterson's philosophy. Now, that's a fucking waste of life. That's, for me, that's why I say capitalism and the church went together. They went together hand in hand, and this is how I say the church sold people out to the aristocracy, because they just said work harder. If you're not getting where you want to be, you put your head down. Because Peterson expounds, now he's the epiphany of this, because he expounds Christian values, and I'm not a fan of Christian values. But anyway, where was I on this? Yeah. So basically, work harder. Now, let me tell you something for a fact. we're all cast in different roles. And there's no guarantee that if you take a certain path or divert from what your path is, or striving for excellence in your striving for excellence in your respective role, that you're going to be guaranteed anything. That you're going, this is what happened with the gold rush, that everybody ran off out of greed, following their desires and aversions, and all started panning for gold, and some of them completely lost everything, just ruined their lives. Some of them died in the stream. But who did make money was the ones who sold them the shovels, and the ones who sold them the brushes, and the ones who sold them the pans, and the ones who encouraged them, come on here, the whorehouses, the hotels, everything else. That's who made money. But happy legs. That's Gold Coast. But anyway, I'm trying not to be too hard for the Gold Coast. I said I was going to stop this because that's the hypocrisy. But I said I was going to stop this. But I better wrap this up. But basically, that's Peterson is saying work harder. But if it's not your respective role, you can work as bloody well hard as you want. You know what I mean? You're just diverting yourself. But what Peterson is encouraging here in this story of Cain and Abel is to be led by your desires and aversions. Be led by your desires. Be led by your will to power. And I'm not an advocate of being led by the will to power or by your desires. I'm saying don't be led by your desires and aversions. Use reason and strive for excellence in your respective role. But anyway. So what results when you do strive for wealth and things that are outside your respective role? Well, Cain did exactly what Peterson said. Cain worked harder, and what happened then is he went into a fit of rage and jealousy, which is what happens. This is what happened with what's called ressentiment in Nietzsche's philosophy, where he identified that the plebeians became resentful of the aristocracy because they started to say, like, why have you this and I not got this? Why have you? And this is jealousy. This is envy. And jealousy and envy is an awful emotion because it'll eat you up like a cancer from the inside. And it'll make you a miserable fucking person. And eat you like a cancer from the inside. And I'll tell you now what happens then. Jealousy causes anger and an underlying current of anger. And it turns you into a bitter and sour person. And what happens then if you're of a certain nature? Well, he went along and he killed his brother. He killed him. Burst his head with a rock. And that's where the jealousy and the anger and the rage and being led by your desires and striving for not using reason, but striving, as I said, to assert yourself in the dominance hierarchy and striving for money. Now, of course, we can balance this thing out. As I say, I'm not telling anybody how to live. I'm just giving you an alternative perspective to Peterson's. But mine is right. I'll tell you that now, mine is right. And if you don't, and therefore, what Peterson's actually doing is cultivating the market. And this is my big problem with psychology. But the Christians did the same fucking thing. Because when you were overcome with your rage and your jealousy and your fucking and your misery, you were spiritual guidance, and this is how they built their market as well. The very same way. Now I better get off this fucking thing. Good morning. See you. Talk to you tomorrow.